What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the video. In this one, I'm going to talk kind of about, it's not necessarily my actual portfolio holdings, but it's what I'm going to try and start to cover more on this channel. It's about 8 stocks, I believe, that I'm going to be starting off with. Of course, I'll be adding more, maybe taking some off the list, and also just a little bit about the market and a few key things happening this week and just in the near future that are going to be really important, especially on the impact of a macro perspective. But if you enjoy my type of content, please subscribe to my channel. But let's go ahead and just get straight into it. So looking a little bit over markets today on Monday, July 8th, S&P up a little bit, 10 bips, NASDAQ up 28 bips. We're looking at some pretty good things, and bonds in general, yields on, we can see they were very, very flat, not even up a bip on the 10-year, which has been very interesting. But I think what's going to be the most interesting is going to be over the next few days. We have Fed Chair Powell. He's going to be talking. It's going to be really interesting. Do I think we'll see a rate cut within this next week? No. I think rate cuts are probably going to come more so in maybe September would be a good guess, in my opinion. If we get a second one, maybe November. But that's going to be very interesting because we saw unemployment data coming out last Friday, 4.1%, which was the highest percent-wise that we've seen since November of 2021, but on a kind of absolute basis, I don't think it marges too much concern for the most part. But all that aside, it's going to be very interesting to see where rates go, because if the Fed and if Powell kind of sees this as a concern, which I don't think it's going to be, at least very soon in the next few weeks, near future, but cutting rates would definitely have an impact, especially on the cost of capital of these big companies. Let's go ahead and kind of talk about this portfolio that I mentioned. We can see we have 8 companies: Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Amazon, Tesla, PayPal, Take-Two Interactive, and SoFi. Now, I'd say these two are kind of just companies that I like. I think SoFi has been getting beat down. I mean, you can see on the yearly, the year-to-date, we are getting absolutely crushed. All right, this is something that I think is a more long-term outlook, especially with fintech companies. We're going to need to see rates drop before we see companies like even PayPal, I think, perform in the manner that's to the tech, to the fintech name, where you see higher growth rates, maybe like you're seeing in Apple or Microsoft. But I think you're definitely going to need to see rates drop with these companies before you see any big things. And let's just kind of go ahead and go company by company. So first off, let's talk about Apple. Up the day, 65 bips. Looking on a valuation perspective, price to sales at 9, a little bit lower than Microsoft. Same with the PE at 35, and EV to EBITDA in line with Microsoft, about 27.7. But I want to talk a little bit about, I found this website. I forget the YouTuber. I think his name is like Felix and Friends. So shout out to him. But this is actually a really good website. It's called tradevision.io. I kind of just want to talk about this company in general and looking at kind of volume that we're seeing from big players, players like hedge funds and institutional investors. So I think for the most part, you can get a really good glimpse of where money's moving, where the smart money's going. And that kind of, not even kind of, it just has a huge input. But looking at Apple, we can see for the next week, the put to call ratio is 0.45. So that's pretty bullish. We're looking at a 227.50 call right here. So I think the stock is going to have a hard time falling below this. We see a lot of option volume right here, especially at the 230. It'll be very interesting to see if the stock can break that. But, it'll be pushing all-time highs. And I think it would be very, very interesting if Apple can do that, to see if we can get in the money on that. I think the chances of that happening they're possible. I think Apple has a lot of momentum going with them, especially over the idea with Apple and the new AI model and having to update your phone, and a lot of demands can be coming in the near future. I think it's going to be more of a Q3 play, looking into from this half of the year, from the beginning until the end of September, especially in September when the new iPhone usually comes out and all the new products, and usually renewals on your phone. If you can get a free upgrade, I say free, but you get what I'm saying. It's going to be very interesting to see the demand that Apple's going to receive. So I think overall it should be bullish for the year, in my personal opinion. And then let's go ahead and look at Microsoft, kind of looking at the options volume and just seeing where the smart money is. So the put to call for this week is 0.71, not as bullish as Apple, but still, we are seeing huge green candles on Microsoft, except for today. The stock is now back to 467, down from about 468.60. And the 465 call, there's not a lot of huge green bars that I'm seeing that are catching my eye, to be completely honest. So I'd say Maybe expect a flat week on Microsoft without any news and just looking at the smart money. But if we go into July 19th, the 455 call is pretty interesting right here if you see that. So keeping above that line is pretty good for the most part, but let's go ahead and look a little bit more on these companies. Next, I want to talk about NVIDIA. So NVIDIA, we all know, absolutely just crushing it in the market. I made a video on them, kind of a little bit of a bearish case, but I'm not sitting here saying I have a crystal ball. But if you want to check that video out, I will put it in the video here in the cards. But let's talk about NVIDIA. So we have the 130 call and I believe that's the 132. So pretty interesting bars right here. I mean, volatile, up to about 128.7 right now on the past week, up 3.14%. So finally, I mean, don't get me wrong, that's a huge week, but a little bit different than what we've been seeing over the past year and some of the huge increases in the price over the short term. So I think looking at the money, put to call ratio of 0.48, you're having a bullish expectations on the week. Seeing if that stock can push through to about 130, 132 is going to be some pretty high resistance, but it'll be very interesting to see where that goes. And then next up, I believe, is Amazon. Okay, so let me go AMZN right here. We're only looking at the long calls. I just feel like it's easiest for me and kind of a very good input on a bullish perspective on where you can see the stock may be going. All right, so right here, Amazon, the bullish we've seen at 0.29 on the put to call ratio for the week. Maybe if we go to July 19th, 0.29. So I guess this is a total number actually. Just want to make sure. Okay, yeah. So this is on the total, I want to say. I'm not going to sit here and say I don't know. I'll get back to you guys in the future. But the 200 call, that's a lot of volume, I believe, right here. Yeah, volume of 30K. Open interest is huge at 113,000 for next Friday. This will be very interesting to see where this goes. But assuming that the stock can break through, it's gonna have a hard time breaking through this level. But I expect it to stay flat. This should be a strong level of resistance until we see potentially some momentum for Amazon and something to come into play. So that 200 price level is going to be very important to break. And if we break it, I think it could rip. Then we have Tesla. So I want to talk a little bit about Tesla. Kind of what's going on with the company. So Tesla investors call for judge to reject outlandish $7 billion legal fee in Musk's pay case. So correct me if I'm mistaken in the comments, but I believe I'm correct when I'm making these statements. But this seems to be that the legal team that kind of got Musk approved for the huge pay package, I believe it was like $56 billion right here. Yeah, $56 billion. They want to get $7.2 billion in legal fees. Which would amount to a rate of $370K for every hour of each of the 37 lawyers worked, and the associates and the paralegals. So they currently, some get billed as low as $275 an hour. I say as little as $275 an hour, but in the terms of what they're asking for, it's a huge spread and a huge difference. But they say they deserve the fee as compensation for the benefit they say that Tesla has received when the court allowed this pay package. But the fee would exceed in far margins a current record fee in shareholder litigation, which was $688 million in the Enron class action suit. This is according to the Stanford Law School. But this is kind of just current news with a long-term outlook. Who knows what's going to happen? But they say it could take weeks or months to issue this ruling in a case. But the Delaware Supreme Court is currently considering a $267 million fee request in a shareholder class action lawsuit involving Dell. So this could almost give it leverage and almost some reason to maybe push this through. But 7.2 billion, like you're more than 10xing. You're like 12xing the amount of all-time highs in a shareholder litigation case. So I think this will be very interesting to see how this plays out. But I don't think it's going to have any concern, at least for the near future, in my personal opinion. And then looking at Tesla a little bit more on the kind of put to call right here is 0.52 on the stock for the near term. So I want to go to the July 19th date. 250 is a good level. We broke that, and I think we're going to be staying above that level, at least for the near term, until we can kind of see reasons why we should fall. But we'll see. We're trading about 252.7, so just breaking that 252.50. Barely. I mean, we broke it a little bit more, and we broke it a lot more today, going up to 259. But the stock has performed absolutely insane over the past week, up 20%. All right. So looking at it, I mean, we went from 199, 250, huge returns in the stock price. So let's go ahead and talk about the next stock, PayPal. All right, PayPal over the past week, past month, flat, and then on the month it's down a lot. Like I said, I think you're going to need to see interest rates fall before you see anything with PayPal kind of going super well. But here we go. Put to call 0.34, so still bullish activity that we're seeing here on the stock. Right now, the 60 call has some volume, but the 60 put, I believe that's going to be on the other side of this, has a lot of volume as well. So the open interest on this is 1,000. And then if we can just break through a little bit more. I don't know why this website doesn't allow me to just click on this. You can drag up and down. All right, well, we're just going to act like that didn't happen. So I think, not a lot of things to be concerned about in the near term necessarily. With PayPal, I think it's going to be very volatile, high beta. But looking at it, not much that I see here other than the fact that it's probably going to have a hard time breaking this 60 level. So let's go ahead and talk about the next stock. We got Take-Two, my biggest personal holding in an individual stock. Right here, the put to call is at 0.42. Now let's talk a little bit more about it. I don't think there's going to be much volume in options. Yeah, there's not. There's a lot of puts. I think there's a lot of bearish activity kind of in the near term just because I think you're not really going to be getting a lot of action on kind of big option plays and big future bullish bets until the near future, because I think this comes with the release of GTA 6. Low volume, only 23 open interest on this, but I think that 200 we can see right here, that's a big amount of bullish calls right here for the outlook in January of 2026, a few months after they hopefully release GTA 6, which will be very big. And I think these could be sitting very well in the money in the near future, or not in the near future, I guess, in a little bit over a year and a half, I would say, with the release of GTA 6. This is going to be something that I personally have strong conviction in. But in the near term, I don't think you're looking at anything big. I think you're going to be looking at what the stock has been doing, kind of trading within its own little ranges. If I kind of zoom out, I'll show you these ranges. The stock usually has a very strong resistance level around where it was this. Okay, so horizontal, breaking 169 is hard for the stock to do, but I don't think you'll be pushing that. This is also a pretty strong level. Around 160 is a pretty strong resistance level, and you could say that 153 is a pretty strong resistance. And then lastly, I'll go ahead and say 150 is a hard level for the stock to fall through. So if we fall through, I think that could give us some bearish activity in the near term. And then lastly, let's go ahead and talk about SoFi. All right, this one is one that I like. It's a little bit of a holding in mind, but I think it'll be very interesting to see how this pans out. This is more for me a very long-term outlook. But okay, in the near term, you're looking at some pretty bullish. You got 8 on the calls. Seems like a good amount of open interest. You got 7 on the puts, 6 on the puts. So those are sitting in the 6 is sitting in the money. But looking at it, this stock will be very interesting. I think it's going to stay flat. It's definitely having its downward pressures, and over the near term, I think it's going to be very difficult for it to kind of prove itself without a really good earnings. And also, like I said, the rate cuts are going to be pretty huge for this company to kind of get its stock back on the ground and back into positive momentum. But that is going to wrap it up for this video. If you enjoyed, please subscribe to my channel and turn on post notifications so you don't miss any of my future videos. I'm thinking about doing a little, maybe $100, just put it in, see what I can turn it into by making trades and just kind of keeping you guys updated, and just so you can see me trading stocks in real time. Hopefully as time goes on, and maybe as this channel gets monetized, I really hope it does and grows, I can add more money and make this portfolio bigger. But if you enjoyed it, please subscribe to my channel. Like I said, leave a comment below, and I will see you in the next video.